0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Tarok's brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Tarok's brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Tarok's has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit tarox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mike Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver Podcast. It's the fastest, it's the friendliest, and it's for all the family. The Gas Shocks 116 Trophy and 120 Coupe Cup are the fastest growing race series in the UK, taking in 6 one-hour races and 8 sprints at all the top circuits. Visit 116trophy.com to find out more and get yourself behind the wheel. From a pot of tea to TT motorbikes. From a classic English breakfast to a full serving of classic cars. Bridge House Tea Rooms is the Northwest premier classic car meeting location for cars, bikes, tractors and owners clubs. So no matter what your automotive appetite might be, visit Bridge House Farm Tea Rooms on their Facebook page or call John and Alicia on 07980 444 221 for show details and to reserve your own table and parking space.
I'm sat here surrounded by Bugatti, real Bugattis, at Prescott Hill Climb, one of the most historic motorsport venues in the country, if not probably the world, if you think about it. I'm also sat with Angela, curator of the Bugatti Trust, which has got to be the ultimate job for anybody into the finest vintage cars. Angela, welcome to the Backseat Driver Radio Show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to get to talk about what I love most, well, about for my family, Bugattis.
What exactly is the Bugatti Trust? Because as its name implies, trust, it is a charity.
It is a charity. So the Bugatti Trust's full name is Bugatti Trust Museum and Study Centre. It was founded and opened officially by Prince Philip, actually, 31 years ago. And the aims and objectives of our charity are educational. It's all about Bugattis, and it's all about the vintage Bugattis.
Which, I know you will not comment on this, but as I said, the real Bugattis.
I think that was a wonderful wonderful way of starting the interview. I just had a huge smile on my face, which no one can see, but that's certainly the way to my heart.
The one thing about Bugatti is, before we talk more about the trust,
yes,
Ettore was the youngest son of Carlo Bugatti, who was a superb furniture designer, because there's examples of the furniture here. His elder brother, Rembrandt Bugatti, was a sculptor. And the one place you can see one of Rembrandt's sculptures, although it's miniaturized, is the trumpeting elephant atop the radiator on what has got to be the most spectacular vintage limousine or two-seater sporting vehicle, the famous Bugatti Royale.
Very true, very true. You've got to think about the Bugatti family was a family from Milan, very artistic, all of them, with various skill sets. As you've just mentioned, there was the sculptor, the furniture maker, the engineer, the painter. I mean, there's so much talent in one family, but they're also hugely supportive of each other. They championed each other's work. So when Ettore Bugatti built a car for kings, he felt the most special sculpture to have as a mascot on top of that massive bonnet and 12-litre engine was his brother's elephant.
I mean, the interesting thing is I've watched various little videos and films on Bugatti and read books. And I think initially when Ettore Bugatti became an engineer, I think the rest of the family were a little bit, what's he doing?
Well, they were surprised it was him.
Yeah.
You see, the father, Carlo Bugatti, saw Rembrandt Bugatti as being the one going into engineering. Ettore Bugatti was the one who had been sort of earmarked, for a better word, as the one who's going to go into art, the fine arts, or maybe the decorative arts. the artistic one, when in fact, and again, respect to the family, they followed the strengths of the children. Ettore went into engineering, self-taught engineer with an apprenticeship at a very early age. Rembrandt was the one who went into fine art.
And I've often heard Ettore Bugatti described as an intuitive engineer. He'd look at a problem and just draw a quick sketch and say that's the solution to your problem. Very few engineers now seem to think along those lines. There seems to be, you need to have committees, you need to have various other things. I mean, you could turn around and say a modern day incarnation of Ettore Bugatti was Mr. Alex Isigonis, because he used to just sit down and draw a quick sketch. And from there we had one of the most iconic cars in the world, the Mini. But,
yes.
I mean, I get the feeling, because they were so artistic and creative, their minds worked differently to most people's.
Their minds might have been different, but also the career paths were different. So as the Bugatti Trust name Museum and Study Centre says, a lot of the work we do is educational. We've got educational aims and objectives, which means I get to work with engineering students from various universities in the UK. Now, these students have to learn specific parts of the curriculum as part of their engineering degree.
Yeah.
Ettore Bugatti didn't have that. He got an apprenticeship at Brunetti and Stucchi, and then he worked for various other companies around the world. He worked in Germany.
Worked for Peugeot, because
Well, he didn't actually work for Peugeot, but I'm sorry, I interrupted.
But I'm sat next to a little engine
Yes.
that Bugatti more or less designed.
And it says Peugeot on it.
And it
And
says Peugeot on
in
it.
the building, in the room next to where we're recording at the moment, is a baby Peugeot. But he wasn't employed by them. He had a concept of a very small car that would sell well at an acceptable price, approached a German manufacturer, turned him down, and he went to see Peugeot, who thought, now this is brilliant, let's manufacture this. It was a commercial success and allowed Ettore Bugatti to raise the money to set up his own factory. He was meant not to work for other people. He was briefly employed by Deutz in Cologne, but there's a man who always was meant to be le patron, his own boss.
Now, the interesting thing is Bugatti's design of a small engine. We've come full circle, apart from the fact there are the electric cars. But you look at now how many Peugeot, for example, my absolute pride and joy, my little Fiat Panda four-wheel drive, there's a two-cylinder. Look at Ettore Bugatti's concept for a small engine. And small engines are now back in vogue.
But look at especially not just the smaller engines that he built during his lifetime and for racing, weight is the enemy. He was always very keen on keeping things light. But the last project, one of the last projects he was working on towards the end of his life when he was based in Paris during the war years, was a microcar called the Type 68.
Oh.
So the Type 68, the engine, would sit quite comfortably on top of your iPad 318cc, two-seater car, which was built in his vision for city traffic, because his vision of the future would be cities will grow, we'll all live in cities, petrol and fuel will be more and more expensive, so we need small engines consuming very little fuel. So the microcar was his vision of the future, and that was back in 1947.
Right. Now, the one thing you know about, or I know about Bugatti, because I've been fortunate enough to visit Molsheim, what I still refer to as the Schlumpf Museum, or the Schlumpf Collection, though it's slightly changed its name.
Well, it changed its name, but they keep the reference to the Schlumpf Museum and the Schlumpf Collection, so it's Cité de l'Automobile Collection Schlumpf, which is appreciating the heritage and why the collection is there in the first place.
But when you look at the bodywork designs, and especially the engines, I mean, they're as much a work of art as they are an actual engine. Nobody else designed engines like that. I know an engine is an engine, and the four-cylinder petrol engine is a four-cylinder petrol engine. But when you look at something Bugatti designed, and the interesting thing is the design became reality. It wasn't a case of, well, that's the design, but that's what you've ended up with because we can't do the design.
But you used the word intuitive earlier on. The intuitive engineer in him had very clear solutions, design solutions to engineering problems. And because he wasn't over-trained in everyone else's engineering solutions and approaches, he just kept to what he knew and worked. This is also why there were certain things he implemented right at the beginning of his production, which he kept all the way through the production because he found a good solution and he stuck with it. And you were talking...
Ettore didn't know you weren't meant to do it that way.
Well, I don't think he'd question it. I think if he thought that's the way it should be done, that's the way it would be done.
Yeah.
And he was, as you said, someone who would do a quick sketch. I had the opportunity as a teenager to work through the Roland Bugatti archives, which had been sold in France from the Roland Bugatti estate. And it had a huge amount of original sketches from Ettore Bugatti in his hand. We've got them here at the Trust. And what was particularly interesting, and in fact, one of my family members noticed this, that there was a huge amount of sketches over Christmas and Easter.
Oh.
Because he was stuck at home and clearly would have been much rather be in the factory designing and creating. So his output of sketches, doodles, which were all about cars, but also about how to redesign gloves, how to design... In fact, if we get the chance, I'll show you one of the walls we have, a selection of patents based on sketches and drawings he did. There are nearly 1,000 patents to his name.
So he designed gloves?
He designed a specific way of articulating gloves to make them more comfortable when you're racing or driving. He designed an operating theatre that was self-sterilizing. Venetian blinds, motorized fishing reel. The man couldn't help himself. He just had to invent, and make better. And then obviously he had a design department at the Bugatti factory where he would then hand over his designs and then they'd be turned into technical drawings.
I was just going to say, given the amount of designs he did, the design department would be relatively redundant to
No, the design department, there's a journey between the... Not doodle. I don't want to disrespect Le Patron because they're not doodles. They're so much more than that. But between his sketches and innovations, and then what would become a technical drawing that then the factory would work with. Here at the Trust, when we said museums, we do exhibitions. The research and study centre element. There might be other museum and motoring organisations with perhaps more Bugattis on display, but we're the only organisation that has the original technical drawing archive from the factory and make them available to the public. So we've got 27,000 plus technical drawings of vintage Bugattis that we make accessible to restorers, researchers, owners who want to repair their cars, work on their cars, or just study something. And all these drawings, which would have come out of the technical drawing department at the Bugatti factory, were scanned over a decade by some of our wonderful volunteers, which means we've got a digital archive we can do research on.
Hidden away in the heart of the Ribble Valley, Specialised Automotive Services offer unrivalled levels of talent for all types of vehicles. All makes and models, old and new, are cared for with the exact same levels of detail. From accident repairs, paintwork, or even full bespoke bare metal resprays. Mechanical rebuilds to full replacement or modifications of defunct electrical systems. Specialised Automotive Services offer traditional engineering and mechanical skills along with the company's constantly updated digital systems and diagnostics. Each SAS technician embodies the SAS ethos of ensuring everything is in order and exactly as it should be. To arrange a guided tour of the workshops and the new vehicle finishing and detailing bay, call Dean on 01282 776 081 or visit sas-autos.co.uk.
Now, the question has to be asked. Bugatti, most people conceive Bugatti as French, which technically they were manufactured in France.
Well, we're assuming because the cars were racing in the blue French racing colour as well.
But the Bugatti family were Italian. How has all this information and history arrived in Prescott, in the Cotswolds in England?
Well, according to classic and sports cars, we're Bugatti's home from home. So there is a very, very historic reason why we're all here, celebrating Le Patron and Bugattis here at Prescott. And I know this story because my wonderful chairman, Hugh Conway, shared it with me, and he's been involved with the Bugatti story for decades. During the years between the First and the Second World War, the economic situation for the countries in Europe was not good compared to the UK. So the UK was still buying Bugattis when a lot of other European countries weren't. Ettore Bugatti built up a very good relationship with his customers in England. The oldest Bugatti Owners Club in the world is the British one, the Bugatti Owners Club.
Which, just putting in, whose premises are just across the way.
Just across the road. So the Bugatti Owners Club founded their club, went to various... I'm sure you can find a full version of this little story and anecdote I'm sharing with you, because it is a wonderful story. But the Bugatti Owners Club, so founded, decided to go to various places around the countryside, meet with Bugatti owners, race hills, drive tracks, Eventually thought, you know what, perhaps we need our own premises so people can stop complaining about smelly, oily, noisy cars coming into their countryside. Why don't we find some premises? And the Vintage Sports Car Club joined forces with the Bugatti Owners Club to buy Prescott Hill Climb. So the Bugatti Owners Club is not only the oldest Bugatti Owners Club in the world, it's also the only one with premises. And Prescott Hill Climb is a vibrant hill climb that has numerous events during the year. You can buy tickets for, you can see vintage Bugattis race, you can see very fast modern hill climb cars go up the hill, you can see supercars going up the hill. Keep an eye on their website because it's fab. And for us, obviously, I like racing. The idea of a museum is a lot of the cars you will see here are on loan from owners who will lend them to us for a specific exhibition or a couple of months, but then also they race them on the hill.
Yeah.
And that is such a vibrant way of interacting with our community.
I mean, the interesting thing is the hill climb, or hill climbing, is the oldest and most original form of motorsport, because, I mean, the Edwardians did it. Because I interviewed the guy that wrote the book on Crossleys, which talks about hill climbing.
Yeah. Hill climbing is... For anyone who wants to dip their toes into motorsport and racing, for example, Prescott runs a hill climbing school, and the way you can book a school day at Silverstone, you learn how to race, but it's you on your own against the clock, one person at a time. So if the idea of racing on a track with 10 other people, where you have to navigate the car control, the track layout, but also the traffic in front of you and behind you, which frankly, a bit terrifying. Not when you're hill climbing, it's just you and the hill. So it's you against the clock and yourself and whatever your brain is trying to tell you at the time. It's exhilarating, and it's also very much, we're all told to live in the moment. You're never more in the moment than when you're sitting on the starting line waiting for the light to go green and you go up that hill as fast as possible. It's great fun.
Now, the interesting thing is, to return to Bugatti,
we must return to Bugatti.
The archetypal Bugatti is the TAC 35, the famous French blue racing car. But I mean, over the years, and you have examples of the drawings, Bugatti produced a whole cross-section of car types.
He did.
And we did trains, we did everything else.
Yes, well, this brings us back to the 1,000 patents to his name. He was a man who was just fascinated by everything, and also a strong belief that he possibly could do it better than most, if not all. So he designed airplanes. There's a boat which is being restored at the moment, and hopefully will come to a very, very quiet lake near anyone soon, and set a new world record maybe for an original Bugatti boat with a historic Bugatti engine. He was into so many things. The trains were a survival story of the factory, actually, at that point, because the Royale Bugatti, that Mark you mentioned earlier on, which was built for kings with a 12-litre engine, but no king ever bought one. At the end of the day, those engines were put into rail cars and sold to the French government, and very successfully did transport people between Paris and the south of France, or Marseille and Nice. And that commercial success of that deal with the government helped Bugatti carry on with the factory when a lot of other things weren't selling anymore. And the variety of cars, in fact, we're sitting in the room where we have the Brescia exhibition at the moment, and the Bugatti Brescia was a very small racing car, and not called Bugatti Brescia when he first introduced it. It was called a Type 13. Ettore was known for giving type numbers to his various cars. And you mentioned the Type 35, which he introduced to the racing world in 1924 at Lyon. And no one had ever seen anything that small and that powerful and efficient. It didn't do particularly well at Lyon, but after that went on to win everything. But going back to 1921, he turned up at Brescia to a race organized on the roads by the city of Brescia together with the Milan Automobile Club. Very small voiturette race. He turned up with 4 cars, 4 Type 13s, and he placed first, second, third, and fourth. And some examples are here right behind us. Very small cars, not a lot of body on them. You must imagine that the racing drivers all had riding mechanics with them who tended to be 14-year-olds because there frankly just is no space in the car for anyone else.
Just nothing, there's no room for 2 fat lads like me, is there?
I think it depends on how snug you like your racing experience. Frankly, if you're racing, your arms are busy, the roads weren't what they are nowadays, and your riding mechanic might be pumping to pressurize various parts of the car.
Fuels and everything else.
You're busy, you need to be able to move your arms. So anyway, coming back to the different models, Ettore Bugatti placing first, second, third and fourth with these cars, and Ernst Friedrich, who was one of the most key people in his factory, drove the winning car. After that, he thought, what a commercial success. Fabulous. Let's call the model the Brescia. And if you think the factory sold 8,000 cars roughly, in total 2,000 of those were Brescias.
Right.
But not all Brescias were Type 13s. And he put different bodies on them. But that success of the name Brescia allowed him to sell so many cars with different bodywork, some less, some more comfortable. And that was his incredible knack for marketing.
Yep.
And then some of the more beautiful cars towards the later years of the factory, actually, when you study who designed them, probably his son, Jean Bugatti, who had a wonderful eye for artistry and engineering.
Because I must say, that before we return to this, the one that I have always loved as regards, shall we say, a 2-door, 2-seater, sporty saloon.
The one you want to jump into and drive off into.
Is the Atlantic.
Is it? You see, for me it's a Type 55.
I just love when you look at the design, to join the 2 sections of bodywork together, they riveted a spine down the top and made a feature out of it. And when you look at it, you think that is just stunning. If anybody did that today, they'd be heavily criticised in all probability. Well, look at the state of that.
But no one's criticising the Bugatti design. It's still to date one of the most celebrated designs in the whole of the output of the factory.
Which our memory serves, I think Ralph Lauren owns one.
Yes, and that specific car was in the ownership of one of our previous chair people.
Oh, right.
Yes, so the I think the beauty of Bugatti is the variety in his output, but always with that eye for beautiful lines. And one of the challenges we did, well, this will amuse you, hopefully, Mark. I said we work with different universities and we create design challenges for them.
Right.
So one of the universities we work with Bath. We sponsor their Formula student team. We work with Coventry. We've got connections with Loughborough, Birmingham, you name it. Formula student is something we passionately support because it's such a wonderful way for young people to get involved in motorsport and engineering. So coming back to Coventry, we also work with the humanities faculty and the design team there, which is incredibly dynamic, whether that's automotive design, product design, or interior design. And about 4 years ago, we had 45 of those students come here. And you were talking about how designers today work and Ettore worked.
Yeah.
What we love with the universities we work with, when we do design challenges, they all have a moment where it's pen to paper. And they have a moment where they just sketch.
Yep.
And they can choose to sketch an engine, or they can choose to sketch a Bugatti elephant.
Right.
Just to feel that connection with the motion of the pencil on the paper, just as Ettore Bugatti would have done it. But the challenge that year was based on coffee. We all like coffee. So automotive design had to come up, inspired by the beautiful lines of Ettore Bugatti's output, had to create a coffee van.
All right.
Interior design had to come up with a pop-up coffee boutique.
Yep.
Product design had to create a coffee machine design.
Right.
And hand on heart, the products that came out of it were beautiful. And there was one particular student who'd created a design for a coffee machine, hugely influenced by the visuals of Carlo Bugatti, and it was just a thing of beauty. I mean, just a thing of beauty. And that's, I know that, each university we work with, we do an annual prize with them as well. They go on to do good things. So I know that particular student, he works for a leading mobile phone manufacturer, but he's been exposed to the aesthetics according to Bugatti, and whether that's Ettore Bugatti or Jean or Carlo or Rembrandt. Our really, brings the joy to my job here is to see these groups of, whether they're students or school children. Last year we worked with 300 kids from business school, is see them enthused about something they normally wouldn't come across, and that 100 years later, Ettore Bugatti can still excite people, and not just because of the racing successes.
Now, when these, shall we say, design challenges take place, do you look for what you might call, I know you've just mentioned it, do you look for a Bugatti influence in what they've designed?
I don't look for a Bugatti influence, I look for a Bugatti awareness. I mean, there was someone, one of the students had clearly not looked at anything in the museum, and his coffee machine looked like the dashboard of a modern supercar. Yeah. And if that's what he loves, of course, fabulous. But from a learning experience, clearly not connected. But that's very rare. What I'm looking for is just to feel that even if they don't absorb it or show it in the work that comes out, at least an acknowledgement. Yeah. We also had one year where we asked interior design students to build a fictional annex. I quite like an additional annex where we can have learning activities with, when I sit quietly at my desk thinking, what can we do in 10 years' time? And several students, again, working with Coventry, one of the students not only had designed the most fabulous computer-generated model of an annex, she'd created a fly-through of the fictional annex, highlighting design features she'd picked up on. Ettore Bugatti was very keen on horses. Yes. So she'd introduced stable elements in some of the woodwork. The radiators, if you look at some of the radiators, the hexagon, the sort of... if you look at the grid formation on the radiator, it's like the honeycomb shapes. Yeah. She'd introduced that in the lighting and the skylights, and it was just exquisite. And you think, here is someone, if you hire someone, we were the fictional client for the university, if you hire someone and you give them a brief, you want to see your brief reflected in their work. Yeah. And I think that's what we're looking for when we work with students, at least an acknowledgement of the brief. Yeah. Because if they go into industry and completely disregard the brief, that's not employable. No, because if you've been employed to do that, you're unemployable technically. Yeah. But at the same time, it's good if they learn that at university rather than when they go into industry. So I think it's a huge honour to teamwork with the universities for future careers. Now, the interesting thing is you mentioned stables, because the one thing Bugatti tend to be known for, though it doesn't appear on every one of their cars, is the horseshoe grille or horseshoe-shaped grille. Yes. Because Ettore was passionate about his horses. Yes, which, if memory serves, and I know I'll get this wrong, my friend in Saint-Tropez will admonish me for this, Marie Catoïde. Is it Le Pur Sang, which is pure blood? But I probably said Pur Sang wrong. Well, there's the literal translation and there's the actual translation. So le pur sang, if you just translate word by word, is the pure blood. Yep. But actually, a pur sang in French language is a thoroughbred. Right. Like you talk about a horse who is a thoroughbred, who is built for racing. So he referred to his racing stables in écurie de course. He's not the only one. I mean, that's what racing stables were called at the time. But what I love is the alternative theories about the radiator shape. So someone was saying to me recently about the egg shape. Carlo Bugatti, his father, was obsessed with the egg shape because he felt it was one of the most perfect shapes found in nature. It's considered to be one of nature's perfect designs, isn't it? We all like an egg. Perfect. If you squeeze it sideways, it'll smash. But you'd be surprised if you stand it, shall we say, pointy end up. The strength that they have is incredible. It is. It's a thing of beauty from a design point of view, visually pleasing, all the rest of it. So Carlo Bugatti liked the egg shape, and you'll find it in his furniture and silverware, all the other objects he worked with. But you also find it in the Brescia radiator. Yeah.
Because it is egg-shaped more than horseshoe-shaped.
So, but then they're also, like with every car manufacturer, there are as many stories as there are legends and urban myths. And a huge joy of my job here certainly is that over, every day there'll be something you learn which is new, so undiscovered, sometimes unfounded, and sometimes well researched, and is 100 years later, we're still, the study element of our title of the museum is still very much active.
Now, after, shall we say, Ettore Bugatti, there was his famous son, Jean, who regrettably was killed in a car crash.
Yes, who had been to Prescott a couple of weeks before he died for the inaugural international Bugatti meeting of the Bugatti Owners Club here. And Jean Bugatti was, in fact, you hear that a number of times from manufacturers. Jean Bugatti had been banned from racing by his father because racing was exceedingly dangerous. It still is. But I mean, if you look at the survivor in the 20s,
back then, Bob, it was really,
horrific. So the fact that he died testing a Le Mans car it's just tragic. And Jean Bugatti was the hope for the future of the factory. He had his father's charm with people, but also talent with the cars.
Yep.
He was a natural-born leader, and he was put in charge of the factory at the age of 24. That's like his father. He's a young prodigy, really. And Jean Bugatti came here with the Type 5950B single-seater racing car that lives at the Schlumpf Museum. Well, it belongs to the Schlumpf Museum, and we briefly had it here on loan 2 years ago for our exhibition. But Jean Bugatti, coming back to the tragic night he died, he was testing a Le Mans car, and they closed the roads. It was an evening test.
Yep.
They'd specifically closed all the roads in the area, and he was with Le Grand Robert, the Great Robert, the sort of chief mechanic and engineering wizard of the factory, and a postman on a bicycle pulled out of a side road, and Jean swerved to avoid hitting him and went straight into a tree and died there in Robert Aumetre's arms. And we have the opportunity to have a really good connection with Le Grand Robert's son, who was here for our exhibition as well, and to hear him tell the story from his father, and that it was just horrific. And the factory's future sort of ended there. Jean was not a single child. Ettore had other children. There was another boy born in 1922, Roland Bugatti, but he just didn't have that business acumen or that vision.
Now, the interesting thing is that to most people, the Bugatti line stops at Jean Bugatti because they don't know about the rest, and that's something I found out today.
Yes.
There are quite a lot of Bugatti descendants, aren't there, that are all very active.
They're very active, and they're keen and involved and very much engaged in the vintage Bugatti community internationally. So Ettore Bugatti remarried late in life and had 2 further children. So Thérèse and Michel Bugatti have all been here. Michel came to the opening of the Trust 31 years ago. And they have children who love Bugattis, and they have children. But Ettore Bugatti's granddaughter, Caroline, is probably the one most involved in the car scene.
Yep.
So her father is Michel Bugatti, so son of Ettore from his second marriage. Yep. Caroline manages Lanneau-Durin, which is a racetrack in the northeast of France, and organizes regular events there. She also races. She did the Rallye des Gazelles in the desert in Africa, and really, really supports any kind of historic respect and heritage initiative for Bugatti.
So the family are still involved then. This is quite interesting.
Yes.
Given how much Bugatti information you have,
yes.
Do you ever find they consult you for things?
Well, yes, but that's often the way, isn't it? Because especially if you think that a lot of things were sold, for example, in the 70s when the estate was being sold. It's just the way it is with families.
Yeah.
And I think our mission here we're trust, we're charity. Our mission really is to share information, to make it accessible. Whether you're a descendant of the family or you're someone who's come across a Bugatti model and you think it's the prettiest thing you've ever seen, let's learn more about it. Or you come in and you say, actually, I'm not interested in cars at all, but my word, I love animal sculpture. Can I find out more about Rembrandt Bugatti? That's what we want to do. We want to share the knowledge here. And you don't have to be a member. I mean, we love people joining the trust, obviously. We have a membership scheme, and it's good for us because the income helps us work with schools and universities. We sponsor things. So it's a useful income for us. But you don't have to be a member to do your research here or to come and visit. And again, it's all part of being accessible, which really matters to us. And Hucke Conway Sr., whose collection of documents was the basis of the Bugatti Trust, all these decades ago, that's what he had as a vision for the trust. He wanted it to be educational and open and accessible. And he was actually managing director for Rolls-Royce.
Right.
Also, you've got something probably in your wallet that he designed because he was so passionate about engineering and design. And like Ettore, always had a pencil in his pocket. He designed the 50p coin.
Oh.
Yes. Which we all use. And hopefully we'll keep on using for a long time. I'm not ready for it all being plastic and electronic. But he was very much involved with the British Design Council, and had this passion for education, which is also why Prince Philip came to open the Bugatti Trust. Prince Philip, the very moving day of his funeral, the people interviewed in the studio afterwards were all talking about his love for the next generation and enthusing the future generations of engineers and designers. And he had made a promise to Hucke Conway Sr. to come and open the trust. Hucke Conway Sr. passed away before the actual completion of this. Prince Philip still came.
Right.
And honoured the promise he had made. So, very special.
Now, I know full well you are fortunate enough to drive Bugattis.
Well, not every day, no. I don't want to paint a picture here that the job comes with regular
It doesn't come with a company car and a Bugatti badge.
No.
We might have a Bugatti badge on it, but that's as near as it gets because it won't be well.
Mine's got a Bugatti Trust badge on it.
What are they like to drive? I mean, I've been fortunate that I've driven, shall we say, Bugatti's greatest adversary, Bentley. The green jobs.
And I would have thought exhilarating drive.
Yes.
So much power, so much pull.
Yeah. But they're a big beat. Ettore described them as, the world's fastest truck.
Yes. I try not to mention that to her. She's up to say, I don't, it's my place. I'm lucky enough I'm allowed to comment on Bugattis, but I wouldn't, go and comment on other people's.
What's a Bugatti like to drive? I get the feeling, looking at them, it's the complete antithesis of them driving a proper WO Bentley.
Well, Bugattis are absolutely extraordinary to drive. They're built for driving pleasure. They're light, they handle well. I've driven a variety of models. I've driven racing cars, I've driven touring cars, and personally, as giving you a little bit of an opinion, I shouldn't be biased, my heart is at racing cars. I like GP cars. The way the GP cars were built, people rally with them. Some of the bigger touring cars, I have one of our contacts, he drives a Type 50 Le Mans Bugatti and pulls his Type 35 behind it. Now, that's the way to go racing. That is the way to go racing. Our chairman drove his Bugatti East Coast to West Coast across America without a breakdown. I mean, he didn't do it in a week, it took a bit longer, but that is how drivable they are 100 years later. And sitting in a car such as the Type 53, which was a four-wheel drive Bugatti, on the starting line at Prescott, not to 60 in under 5 seconds, when you engage first gear and you come off the starting line, I don't think I'd lived till then. Even though I probably had to grunt my way up the hill like a tennis player to corner all that power and car. They are exhilarating. And because of the noise and the smells, It really involves all the senses, your ears. And, you know, Bugatti will tell you if you're in the wrong gear. I mean, a lot of vintage cars do, especially if you go to a venue like Prescott, where the acoustics are such that if you really get it wrong, the whole paddock will tell you afterwards, did you mean to be in that gear? Maybe. I can't remember. It was all a blur. But again, I mentioned earlier on about living in the moment. Driving a vintage, not just a Bugatti, driving vintage cars is so much connecting with everything and driving in the moment. Whether you're on the road, on a track, you hear, feel, smell, see everything, which is so fantastically lacking in my day drive, and most people's day drive, because you're so disconnected from the engine and the exterior.
You don't have to go into detail, but I have to ask you, what's your everyday colour?
No, I won't go into detail. It has got four-wheel drive because I live in a hilly part of England where if it snows the slightest little bit, we have snow for about a month.
Yeah.
And it accelerates enough so that, you know, I do enjoy my drive, not breaking the speed limit, obviously.
Nobody breaks it.
But it really isn't the most interesting. It does what it should do, really. It gets me to work, but... is it exciting?
It doesn't require a lot of thought to do it, really.
I'd like to think it makes me better at work, because obviously I can spend my drive to work planning my day at work. But no, is it exciting? Of course not. Not compared to it. Not compared to a vintage car, ever.
If somebody wants to become involved, because that's the other thing, if you join the trust, you don't, unlike the owners club, where it's a bit mandatory that you own one.
Well, actually, no. You see, it's that you need to join the owners club if you want to race and hill climb.
Right.
But you don't need to come racing. A lot of people come here, they don't race their Bugattis. So it's not... See, it has the word owners in the title, but it isn't.
But how do people get in contact? How do they get involved? And anybody who's interested in Bugatti, I mean, this is the place to visit at least once. But if you become a member, you don't become a member of a trust, you make a charitable donation.
Which is very welcome. Yes, the Bugatti Trust, we are, as I mentioned before, we're a charity, so you can join us as a member, and the membership means you can come throughout the year without paying admission. Normally, we function like any museum. You have to pay an admission fee at the door. And as a member, you don't get charged. You get a regular newsletter in print. Not just digitally, proper printed paper with colour pages, which I'm showing Mark now, Exhibit A. Look at this.
Nicely produced.
Nice, well, we like to think so, with articles that are specifically written for us. You wouldn't see them in other publications by leading, motoring authors who specialise in the field. But we also try and invite people to write about different topics. So there might be a very technical article about gearboxes in a specific type, but next to it, recently, we've had an article about Bugatti bicycles in Czechoslovakia. Fabulous. Right. No one knew much about it, and we had some other... Well, I'll give you a couple of magazines. So you get this magazine. We do electronic newsletters, but we also organise events for our members, where we go and see other museums, where we go and do like a rally day, and... the rally day there might be some Bugattis, there might be a whole lot of other cars. The idea is that you join an organisation where we're passionate about the work we do, and owning a Bugatti, well, nice for you if you have one, but it's really absolutely not a requirement at all. It's more joining in the fun of using Bugatti to enthuse the future.
Angela, curator of the Bugatti Trust. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Thanks very much for joining me on the Backseat Driver Radio Show.
Thank you very much.
Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hucke Tyres are the best in the business. And when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hucke Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at huddetyres.co.uk.